here. But he also started in the CFL, which is near and dear to my heart because it promotes football in my home country, 71 to 73. The only downfall is Joe went to Notre Dame, but we won't hold that against him. And it's a little known fact that when Joe won the Super Bowl, I was pretty young and I didn't have a lot of money, and I bet $100 on the Dolphins. So I'd like to get that money back from you.
I can make up for your childish errors. If you would decide to make a bad choice, I can't account for it.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us, Joe.
Great to be here.
Can you tell us, it's a great show. Look at the attendance. I mean, it looks great, but it looks even better with you.
We have helmets too.
Yeah. We're gonna have little trivia questions for signed footballs from Joe, and then pictures after. But there's been a lot of stuff since the draft and the trades and Tim Tebow and Mark Theismann. I mean, can you tell us a bit about the upcoming football season?
Well, I think the latest news, may as well start with the most current situation, and that's Tim Tebow going to the New England Patriots. And actually, I think it's a very good move for Tim. Josh McDaniel is the offensive coordinator in New England now. Of course, Josh drafted Tim a couple of years ago in Denver. He had a great 9-game stretch for the Denver Broncos where I think he captivated, I'd have to say, all of America. I mean, if you were a fan of football, you watched it. If you weren't sure you wanted to be a fan of football and the Denver Broncos were playing, you'd watch it anyway because you weren't quite sure what Tim was going to do. Now, certainly Tom Brady doesn't feel threatened at all. And Ryan Mallett is their second quarterback up there. So those guys are set. And I think it's a great chance for Tim to go someplace where it's not going to be a circus. The one thing we know about Bill Belichick as a coach is Bill runs New England like with an iron fist. So there's not going to be this circus going on. Tim will get a chance to work on his trade, which wants to be a quarterback. And I think they'll be able to use him in spots. The only question I have is how do you walk up to Tom Brady at some point during a game and say, Tom, I'd like you to come off the field and we're going to put Tim in. I think that's probably the first fight everybody's waiting to see. Only because as a quarterback, it's just like any of you out there in your job. You take your job very seriously and you want to be the person. And when you earn the right to be the person, then all of a sudden somebody says, well, we're going to share it. It doesn't go over real big. But I think it's a great spot for Tim. I think it's a good move by New England. And now we'll talk about your hometown, the Chicago Bears. One of my dearest friends is the new head coach, Mark Theismann. And Mark's had a resume that not too many people are aware of. Steve Young's greatest year in San Francisco and Jerry Rice's greatest year in San Francisco was when Mark Theismann was the offensive coordinator. Those of you remember the days before Peyton Manning and between John Elway and Peyton Manning when Jake Plummer was in Denver. Then he went to Arizona. The Arizona Cardinals made it to the playoffs, beat the Dallas Cowboys in the first round. Jake was the quarterback. Mark Theismann was the offensive coordinator. The last time, now I don't know if there are any Oakland Raider fans here. I don't see anybody dressed in a unique fashion, so I'm assuming there really aren't too many. No shoulder pads, no spikes, no color, different color faces, so we're good with that. Rich Gannon was the MVP of the league. Mark Theismann was the offensive coordinator. So I think the Bears could be the team that everybody needs to look out for this year. So from my perspective. And then Wes Welker going to Denver, I think makes them, in my opinion, the #1 choice for the Super Bowl in the AFC would be the Denver Broncos. I think Peyton's going to have a year under his belt. Wes Welker, we know how special he has been. Now you add some wide receivers outside, and there's no telling what they can accomplish out there.
Well, that's great. How about this draft and anything special that stands out?
The thing that stood out to me in the draft was there weren't any quarterbacks in this draft that you would look at like we do with Robert Griffin III or Andrew Luck or Russell Wilson, the three guys that really made a big splash last year. The fact that they chose a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of defensive linemen, tells me that the 8 new coaches and general managers were making smart, safe choices. I think you choose a young quarterback, all of a sudden, you're not quite sure what you're going to get until you have a team around you. Speaking of young guys, I was out at practice yesterday watching the Redskins work and watching Robert Griffin III move around. And Robert looks like he's well ahead of schedule. Just a phenomenal athlete. He and Colin Kaepernick, 2 guys that are exceptions to the rule. I don't think the kind of offense that they run in Washington, the kind of offense they run in San Francisco, will become the norm in this league. I really feel like it's going to be that special athlete, of which we don't really have any in this draft, that's going to be able to go out and be able to play football at that level. Geno Smith made a prediction that the Jets would be in the playoffs. I probably could take a poll, and I don't know how many people might agree with Geno. Good for him. I'm glad he feels that way. I just don't. So that's the draft.
Okay. Well, we have our first trivia question. So Joe's quite an athlete, that, as you know. Like, look at those rings. You got to show those rings.
Yeah.
First thing I do is show rings. The first one's a responsible ladies. Actually, the Baltimore Ravens, just on an FYI, this is the World Championship ring, and this is the NFC Championship ring. A lot of people aren't aware that both teams that play in Super Bowls actually get rings. This becomes the conference championship of which you represent, and then of course there's the World Championship ring. I'll tell you a real quick story. When the Denver Broncos lost their third Super Bowl, Pat Bowlen, the owner, wanted to give them a nice ring. So what he did is he designed an AFC Championship ring similar to the San Francisco ring, which is like ours, the Jet ring, which is like ours, and this one. And the league said, we can't have championship rings from conferences look like Super Bowl rings. So now there's a uniformity in the conference rings. But the Baltimore Raven ring, if you were to take a mid-sized spoon and just look at the spoon part, not the stem, and put it on your finger that way, that's how big the Baltimore Raven ring is. It is the most incredibly gaudy piece of jewelry I've ever seen in my life. And you know what? God bless it. I think that is so great. When we won the championship, Coach Gibbs came to me and he said, would you like to be a part of the design of the Super Bowl ring? And I said, no, I only want a couple things. I want it big and I want it gaudy. And so we managed to accomplish that back in the 80s when we did it.
Okay, so the first question is, Joe obviously played in CFL, NFL, and but Joe was drafted in another sport by another team. So can anybody tell us like, who drafted Joe for another major league sport in another league?
Raise your hand. Anyone?
Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, over here.
Right here.
Hang on.
What team?
Wait, right back here.
Cincinnati Reds.
And I grew up in Jersey, but it wasn't the Yankees.
It was, so now there's a clue, it's baseball. Can anybody tell us what team?
Reds.
It's just a question
Reds.
of who gets to Google fast enough. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, here we are in an InfoComm, and
Yeah.
who gets to hit their Google
Reds.
fast enough? Who was it? The Reds? Nope. No, you're not eligible.
Yeah.
You're not eligible.
You're ineligible.
Yeah.
Minnesota Twins.
There we go.
All you do is have a real fast server. That's all you have. Dan, what I'll do is when we're finished.
Indianapolis.
What I'll do is I'll finish when we're finished. I'll sign this to you and we'll get a picture taken.
Thanks a lot.
So in the meantime, catch it. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Good.
Hold on to it. You earned it.
so Joe, I mean, can you tell the good folks how you and I are NEC and you got involved together?
I met Pierre a couple of years ago. We're both very big fans of the Jimmy V Foundation. Of course, I don't know how many of you are aware, Jimmy Valvano was a basketball player at Rutgers University. We became friends over a period of time when Jimmy V used to do a lot of work at ESPN, as I did. And when I was at the ESPYs, the night 1993 when Jimmy gave his speech, I happened the opportunity to sit next to him and help him off and on the stage. As a matter of fact, I have a book coming out in about the next 3 months. And in the book will be Jimmy's entire speech. That's how much I think of him. And Pierre's been kind enough over the years to really support the V Foundation. We played golf together and started talking about different things. And this is more of a friendship than a business relationship. And he's a tremendous man, gives him his heart, gives him his time, gives him his money to a great charity, the V Foundation. And so that's how we wound up being able to spend time together. And now here I am at the NEC booth, seeing all you, which is fun.
And it is a
And
great.
Superman's here too.
Yeah, it is.
When's your movie come out? Friday. See, I did that.
It's a great event because
It looked like you lost a little muscle though.
Yeah.
Either that or the suit's getting a little bit stretched out. I'm not sure.
But, yeah, it is a great event. All the athletes come in and donate their time.
The ESPYs will be coming up the
third week of July.
Third week of July. Yep.
And we'll be there again. So, and Joe's trying to come this year. Might be this year.
I guess you got to say to yourself, who's going to represent basketball at the ESPYs? Will it be San Antonio or will it be Miami?
Go Spurs!
After last night, you say the Spurs, but then go back 2 days ago and you say Miami.
Go Spurs!
At San Antonio, I think it's one heck of a great basketball team. Miami has great individuals, and they showed last night that they can just turn it on. I mean, it's just an amazing series. This game will tell us who the champion's going to be.
Old guys can win.
Old guys can do a lot.
They can play a Champions Tour.
They can play on the Champions Tour. That's right. That's what we can do.
Yeah. The second trivia question is going to come from our VP of Marketing, Ashley Flasco.
So, okay, everyone. What college team has the most quarterbacks that have won the Super Bowl? You need to name the team as well as the players that have won.
It's Alabama.
And then, yeah.
Well,
It's Alabama.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll make it easier for you. There are 3 players that have won the Super Bowl from this school. Name the player, and the players, and the school. Let's see how quick your server is down, Dave.
Right here.
That
Right
is
here.
faster than...
Ashley.
Go ahead.
Who do we have?
Ashley.
Ashley.
She probably spotted that.
No.
No.
Why do you say Alabama?
Ashley.
Does it beat Notre Dame in the BCS championship?
Ashley, over here.
Same.
That was personal.
Right here.
It's Alabama with Stabler and Namath.
Nope.
Next.
Not Alabama. Old Miss, not Old Miss.
There.
Right there. Not Notre Dame.
There's just two. Montana and
There's just 2 of us from Notre Dame.
Who else?
Not Miami, no.
The fact that she gets... Well, I'm not...
The fact that I'm asking the question, if anybody knows me, maybe that should help.
If you get an idea of your wardrobe, also your wardrobe sort of. What do you have?
Who? Purdue.
Purdue. Okay, that's the school. Now name the 3.
Drew Brees. Drew Brees.
This is almost unfair.
Yeah.
Can you name 3 without looking? 2.
Go out of 3.
Who? Dawson Gracie Breeze. She got it.
She got it.
Fair enough. Here you go. You ready?
My name is Kristen and I'm with Info.
All right. Here you go, Kristen.
My show.
Good girl. Thank you. All right. We got one more.
So Joe, we talked a bit about the NBA, but like, if you're Canadian,
I know.
and if you live in Chicago,
I know.
What's the most important thing today?
Today is the Blackhawks and the Bruins playing. Well, let's just say this. I think, and I am a hockey fan because I spent some time up in Canada. I became a Leafs fan and living in Toronto. I didn't realize one thing about hockey arenas. You know, I grew up in Jersey. Well, besides cold, it's always cold in a hockey arena. That's the first thing. The other thing is the seats go up this way. So, like, if you're on the rail real high up, if you have a fear of heights, you're going to fall over on your face. So that's the one thing I learned. But I think Boston was either 1 or 2 in fewest goals scored. The Blackhawks are playing really, really well. Do I have to pick a team? Yeah, I will. I'll do it anyway. It doesn't matter. I don't have to spot. I say Chicago wins in 6.
Yeah.
I think the Blackhawks in 6. I will.
That's it.
I got it on tape.
Do you have a trivia question for me? I thought you had.
Oh, I have a trivia question that is going to be, and you won't be able to Google this.
Oh, wow.
Okay? Name 2 quarterbacks that played against one another that were high school teammates in an NFC championship game. And I was one of them. I was one of them. Name the other person that played quarterback in an NFC championship game
High school teammates.
that were high school teammates.
Yeah.
And you will not be able to Google it.
Wow.
So we have to rely on, we'll put a little time frame on it. Who's that? Danny White? No. No, not Phil Simms. No, not Doug Flutie. Who is it? Jim Rutledge? No. Jeff Rutledge either. Either one. Neither one of the Rutledge brothers got it done. Anybody else? All right, I will. Who? No, it wasn't Steve Bono. I'll give you another hint. Okay? This person played for the Dallas Cowboys.
Gary Hunkable.
It is Drew Pearson. That's correct. And I'll tell you why. In there you go. David? There you go. Watch out, Ashley. There you go. In 1982, January of 82, when we played the Dallas Cowboys at RFK Stadium, at the end of that game, there was pandemonium. And the clock has to run out all the way with the full 60 minutes. So at the end of that game, there's like 5 seconds left to go. The Dallas Cowboys run off the field. We run off the field. The ref comes into our locker room and says, we need 11 players to go back out on the field to take a snap to officially end the game. So they went into the Dallas Cowboy locker room. 11 of the guys came out. The quarterback who took the snap, and Drew was actually the quarterback that took over for me when I was in high school at South River High School. Drew came out and officially took a snap in the NFC Championship game. So we officially competed against one another in the NFC Championship game. Wow. So that's how it wound up happening. So there's a trivia question you can't Google, which I think is almost impossible.
That's sort of like the Seattle game. They have to come back out at the end of the game after that bad demo.
Yeah, that's right. I'd like to do this. Ashley, you have the mic? Okay. I can hear you, so if you want to put it, I'd like to answer. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer some questions. And we'll start with the gentleman because I have peripheral vision. Yes.
Chances of putting that team together?
What do I think the chances are of the Carolina Panthers putting a team together? Yeah, I think the Panthers are on the right track. You know, Cam's going to be in his 3rd or 4th year. He is, I think, developing into a fine quarterback. They still need some wide receiver help. D'Angelo's decided to stay on. Defensively, they got beat up a lot last year, so I think the foundation in Carolina is built. Tampa has done the same thing, though. The problem Carolina has, they play in the same division with the Atlanta Falcons. And that's always a big hurdle to get over. I mean, you can build, it's like you can build your business, but you have to look at the competition and say, where are they as to where we are? I think Tampa's done a lot to really do well, but I think Carolina's making some strides. This will be a big year for Carolina to find out exactly where they are. So I think they'll do a good job. I think he'll do a good job. We just have to wait and see. Anybody else have a question? Yes, sir. What do I think of all the rules to protect players now? I think safety is very important. And I think back on my career, and I only wish we had some of these rules in place. I might still have my teeth. By the way, I'm all for cosmetic dentistry. 7 broken noses. Of course, I wore a single bar. I guess you could say I was somewhat asking for it. I think safety is paramount. The concussions are a big issue. But that's something I think the league is addressing. I'm not a big fan of just touching the quarterback's helmet and 15 yards. They ought to make it 5 and 5. It's an interesting scenario when you look at rules. Kickers are the most vulnerable people in the game of football. I mean, kickers are without question. Their feet are in the air. You never know what's going to happen. But yet, if you run into them, it's only a 5-yard penalty. If you rough them, it's a 15-yard penalty. You breathe on a quarterback with bad breath, you're going to get 15. So, as important as that position is, and as big as the celebrities are that play that position, I think it's a little unfair to penalize a defensive player who inadvertently tries to swat a ball down and just glances someone's helmet. I don't think that's a 15-yard penalty. That's one of the rules I think they really need to look at. But overall, I think our rules are geared for safety. I don't know how they're going to officiate the new rule about running backs after they get outside the tackle box, lowering their head to protect themselves. That's, I guarantee you, they never asked the running back what they thought. I don't know how they're going to enforce that rule without being a deterring factor in a game. What new rule is going to determine somebody from making the playoffs or not making the playoffs? That's the question I think they have this year. But I'm all for safety in our league. We had a very small window to be able to do it. The average NFL player plays a little over 3 years. I managed to play 15 professionally, and I consider myself very, very lucky. And love the 3 I spent in Canada. First place I broke my leg.
That's another trivia question.
Question. How did Nerlens Noel react when you talked to him?
Noel?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean
Nerlens, Kentucky.
at Kentucky?
Yeah. You talked to him about your injury.
Oh, you talking about Kevin Ware with Louisville?
No, Kentucky.
Oh, down there.
Yeah.
Everybody reacts very well. The fact that I went through it, guys appreciate that I get a chance to talk to them about it. I can't really talk to them about the physical rehabilitation part because that's personal. I can talk to them about the psychological part, what they're going to have to deal with, what the rehabilitation process is going to be like. And there is Kevin Ware's another young man in Louisville who I've had a lot of conversation with, and we'll continue to talk to him and see how he's doing. Tim Crumry broke his leg. Napoleon McCallum busted his. And I'm sort of like the godfather of broken legs. Mine's the one that seems paramount in most people's minds. But I really try and reach out to these young men because they're hurting themselves at very young stages in their career. I hurt myself at 35, and I was sort of at the end. It was hard to come back. It's never fully come back anyway. You about to take one more? Yeah, or 2 more. Tebow going to New England. You weren't here in the beginning, but I think it's a good move for Tim, and it'll be curious to see how they want to utilize his skills and athletic ability. With Josh McDaniel there, it's the best chance for Tim to be able to get under center again and play quarterback. So I don't think it hurts the organization one bit. I don't feel like it's going to be a giant circus. I think Tim's going to be able to just sort of move off into somewhat of a degree of anonymity and just be able to work on being a quarterback, which is good for him. There's no question he's one of the most popular people we've ever had without a uniform. Yes, ma'am. Is RG3 going to be a starter for opening day? Yes. Against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night, the Redskins, I feel confident that RG3 will be under center. Watching him practice yesterday, I was really excited about the way he's moving around. And I'm excited about the Redskin football team. So, one more. Anybody got? Yes, sir.
Peyton Manning, what do you think he's going to do this year?
What do I think Peyton Manning's going to do this year? Last year, I'm not sure whether he was the MVP or the comeback player of the year. Whichever one, he's not going to be a comeback player. I think Peyton Manning has a chance to be the MVP of the league. I think the Denver Broncos, in my opinion, are the favorite to win the Super Bowl, at least get to the Super Bowl. San Francisco on the other side, and Seattle and Washington, I think are really, there are more teams in the NFC that I think have shots at the Super Bowl than there are in the AFC. Denver just got better. With the acquisition of Wes Welker, it's amazing. With Demaryius Thomas and Decker outside, with Wes in the slot, with their running back situation the way it is, and Peyton behind center, he's just great. I mean, I can sit down and carry on an argument with you about the 3 greatest quarterbacks that this game has seen: Tom Brady, Joe Montana, and Peyton Manning. And I could probably make a case for every one of them to be the best. That's the fact. The age that we live in is so neat because these athletes are so incredible. And then you look at what Adrian Peterson accomplished last year, coming back from that knee surgery. So
You know that we're send this tape to Mark saying that you didn't name the Bears.
I said the Bears could be a surprise team coming on. I don't know. But it's the NFC's loaded with such teams. The Green Bay Packers, again, with Aaron Rodgers, who I think is the best quarterback in the league right now.
Well,
So they have a lot of them.
that was great. Thanks, Joe. So just for everybody's sake, Joe will stay, sign the footballs, and then we got these beautiful pictures of Joe that they'll set up the ropes and you come and get signed for you or your kids or something like that. So we want to thank you so much for, again, it's been a great partnership.
Thanks, everybody.